3 huge gifts God gives to dark chosen ones in difficult times, but only 1% know. Let me ask you a question that could change your life forever. What if the very pain you've been begging God to take away is the proof that He chose you? You see, we live in a world obsessed with speed, comfort, and clarity, but the divine doesn't always work that way. God isn't Amazon Prime. He doesn't ship answers in 2 days. Sometimes He places you in the wilderness, blindfolded, with every voice you trust silenced, not to abandon you, but to awaken you. And this is where it all begins, when your world collapses, when you feel forsaken, cast aside, even punished. But what if I told you this is the very moment something sacred begins?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
I've seen this over and over again in people who carry a strange weight in life, a kind of spiritual heaviness that seems to follow them. These are not ordinary people. These are what I call the dark chosen ones. They are not chosen for the spotlight, but for the shadows. Not chosen to escape the fire, but to walk through it without being consumed. And only a rare few, maybe 1%, ever realize what's actually happening when life begins to fall apart. You might be one of them, and if you are, you already know your suffering has never been random. Every betrayal, every failure, every heartbreak, it all carries a pattern, a rhythm, like a silent whisper in your life saying, "Look deeper." And when you do, you begin to realize something terrifying and beautiful at the same time. God gives His hardest battles to His most deeply entrusted soldiers, but not for war, for wisdom. You see, the first huge gift that God gives to the dark chosen ones in difficult times is the gift of isolation. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can isolation be a gift? Isn't it the breeding ground of depression, anxiety, and despair? But let's go deeper. Look at every prophet, every mystic, every soul who ever touched the divine. What do they all have in common? Before the revelation came the isolation. Moses was exiled to the desert. Jesus wandered the wilderness for 40 days. Muhammad meditated alone in a cave. Even the Buddha sat alone under the Bodhi tree. Before wisdom comes silence. Before clarity comes confusion. Before power comes loneliness. God isolates you not to punish you, but to prepare you. He removes the noise, the distractions, the people who can't go where you're going, so that you can hear Him. And when all the voices fall away, you're left with the one conversation you've been avoiding your whole life, the one with yourself. In this sacred silence, you begin to see your reflection, not the one in the mirror, but the one in your soul. And it's terrifying, because it shows you everything, your wounds, your lies, your potentials, your fears. But this mirror is also magical, because the longer you look, the more you remember who you were before the world told you who to be. This is where the first gift begins to activate. In the darkness, in stillness, in solitude. It's like a divine recalibration. God is stripping away everything you're not, so you can finally become what you are. And what you are is dangerous to the darkness. That's why it tried so hard to break you. But let me be clear, isolation isn't just being alone. It's being alone on purpose. There's a difference between being abandoned and being hidden. Some of you think you've been forgotten, but you haven't. You've been hidden, covered, protected, Because what's growing inside of you is too sacred to be exposed too early. This is why so many dark chosen ones struggle with fitting in. It's because you were never meant to. Your soul was encoded with ancient frequencies, deep spiritual technologies that don't operate on the surface level of life. You were designed for depth. But the problem is, depth is dangerous in a shallow world. So God isolates you, not to punish you, but to train you. Like a warrior in the cave, sharpening his blade in the dark. No witnesses, no applause, just you and the fire. And every day you wake up in this cave, wondering if it's all in vain. But it's not. Because every tear you cry in private is watering a future you can't even see yet. But here's the truth you need to hear. Your isolation is not the end. It's the invitation to go deeper, to unlearn the lies, to confront the patterns, to break the chains, to hear the voice of God not in thunder but in the whisper. And when you finally accept this invitation, something wild begins to happen. You stop resisting, you stop begging to be rescued, and instead, you begin to transform. Because isolation is where the second gift begins to show itself, quietly, like a seed breaking through soil. But we'll get to that. For now, I need you to sit with this. What if the silence you're drowning in is actually the voice of God tuning your frequency? What if the loneliness you fear is the sacred womb where your true self is being reborn? What if your breakdown is the blueprint for your breakthrough? To think about that, you were not sent into this darkness to die. You were sent here to remember. And if you're one of the dark chosen ones, you already know. You've always known. You just forgot for a while, but now the fire is waking you up. And this fire isn't here to burn you, it's here to forge you. Now, take a breath. Sit in this moment. Feel the silence. Feel the weight of every unanswered prayer. And know this, you are not behind. You're in training, and the first gift, isolation, is proof that God hasn't given up on you. He's just getting you ready for the next gift. The second gift, sacred vision in the storm. There comes a moment in every dark chosen one's journey when the silence becomes unbearable. The isolation, once peaceful, now feels like a prison. You start questioning everything, your path, your worth, even your sanity. You look around and see others moving forward, building lives, finding love, achieving success. And you feel stuck, lost, forgotten. But that's when the second gift begins to emerge, not with fireworks or fanfare, but like a subtle shift in the wind. It's the gift of sacred vision. You see, after isolation has stripped you of external distractions, something begins to awaken inside you, your inner sight. Not your physical eyes, but your spiritual perception. This gift is subtle, and that's why so few recognize it. But it's one of the most powerful tools God gives to the dark chosen ones. It's the ability to see beyond the pain, beyond the chaos, beyond the illusion. It's the capacity to perceive purpose in the storm. Imagine being in the middle of a hurricane. The winds are howling, the rain is relentless, and everything around you is shaking. Most people would only see destruction, but the dark chosen ones, they begin to see patterns. They begin to see messages. They don't just suffer, they decode their suffering. They begin to realize that every setback contains hidden instructions. Every betrayal is a redirection. Every loss is a clearing of space. And this insight doesn't come from books or teachers or even religion. It comes from within. It's a spiritual download that only arrives after everything else has been stripped away. But here's the thing about sacred vision. It's both a blessing and a burden. Because once you start seeing the truth, you can't unsee it. You begin to notice the lies society feeds us. You see the fear behind the masks people wear. You feel the energy behind their words. And most painfully, you begin to see the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. Your ego, your insecurities, your attachments. Everything comes to the surface, and it's overwhelming, but it's necessary. Because vision isn't just about seeing the future. It's about seeing the present with divine clarity. It's about looking at your wounds and understanding why they exist. It's about recognizing the lessons hidden inside the trauma. It's about seeing every moment, no matter how painful, as part of a larger design. That's what separates the 1% from the rest. Most people run from pain, but the dark chosen ones, we dissect it, we ask, what is this trying to teach me? And in that question, everything begins to shift. Let me ask you something. What if the worst thing that ever happened to you was actually the exact thing that initiated your awakening? What if the storm that almost broke you was the only thing strong enough to shatter the illusions you were living in? You see, the second gift is not just about insight, it's about transformation through perception. God doesn't just give you vision to see reality, He gives it to you so you can redefine it. And that's where your power lies. Because once you start seeing through divine eyes, you stop being a victim of circumstance, you become an alchemist. You take the darkness and turn it into wisdom. You take the pain and turn it into purpose. And yes, it's lonely, because sacred vision isolates you even further. You begin to speak a language few understand. You stop chasing what others chase. You don't care for surface-level success anymore. You crave depth, truth, realness, and that's rare. But that's also why you're chosen, because you were never meant to follow the crowd. You were designed to lead souls out of the matrix, but you can't guide others until you first escape it yourself. So if you're in the storm right now and everything feels like it's falling apart, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, what am I really being shown here? Because I promise you, if you look with sacred vision, you will see that nothing is random, nothing is wasted. Every tear you've cried has watered something eternal. Every door that closed was protection. Every silence was sacred training. The second gift doesn't just change what you see, it changes who you are when you see it. And once this vision is activated, your life will never be the same. The third gift, divine power hidden in your weakness. There is a paradox so deep, so divine, that most never dare to accept it. Your greatest power is hidden in your deepest weakness, and until you understand this, truly feel this, you will keep resisting the very things designed to awaken you. The third gift that God gives to the dark chosen ones in difficult times is not flashy. It doesn't come with lightning bolts or applause. No, it comes when you are at your lowest, on the floor, face down, no strength left to pretend. It comes when everything you built has crumbled, and the only thing left is the raw truth of who you really are beneath the masks. This gift is the gift of divine power, but it doesn't come as strength in the way the world defines it. It comes as surrender. It is power disguised as powerlessness. You see, we've been conditioned to believe that power is about control. Control over our environment, our image, our outcomes. But true spiritual power begins where control ends. When you have nothing left to hold on to, that's when the real power begins to rise. Because now finally you're open. Finally you're available to receive something that doesn't come from you, it comes through you. And this is the secret that only the 1% ever find out. That weakness, when surrendered to God, becomes the womb for miracles. Think about it. Every hero in every sacred text didn't rise because they were flawless. They rose because they broke. Moses had a stutter. David was overlooked. Job lost everything. Paul was tormented. Even Jesus in the garden wept and asked whether the cup could pass from him. These weren't moments of failure. These were moments of activation. Because the divine doesn't anoint the flawless. The divine anoints the willing, the surrendered, the broken vessels through which light can finally pour. So if you feel like your life is falling apart, if you're ashamed of your struggles, your addictions, your fears, listen closely. You are closer to power than you think. Because your weakness is not something to hide, it's the very place where God wants to meet you. And not to fix you, but to fill you, to inhabit you, to transform your pain into presence, your fear into fire, your doubt into destiny. But only if you stop resisting it. And here's the hardest truth. As long as you keep pretending to be strong, you block the flow of divine energy. As long as you keep performing, hiding, faking it for the world, you stay disconnected from the source. But the moment you drop the act, the moment you say, God, I have nothing left, that's when heaven responds. That's when the third gift gets activated. Because God isn't looking for impressive people, He's looking for available people, people who have been emptied out enough to be filled. And when that divine power begins to move through you, it doesn't always feel like lightning. Sometimes it feels like peace where there used to be panic. Sometimes it feels like clarity in the middle of chaos. Sometimes it feels like love for people you used to hate. And for the first time, love for yourself. That's real power, the kind that doesn't need to dominate, but elevates, heals, radiates. But here's the part that most people miss. This power isn't a one-time event. It's a lifestyle of surrender. It's a daily dying of the ego. It's waking up every day saying, not my will, but yours. And it's terrifying because it means letting go of the illusion of safety. It means walking by faith, not sight. But the reward is access to a level of strength, wisdom, and clarity that the world cannot touch. I want to ask you something deeply personal. What would happen if you stopped trying to be strong and let yourself be held? What would happen if you gave God the broken pieces instead of trying to glue them together yourself? Because here's the truth no one wants to admit. Your weakness is not your enemy, it is your portal. The very place where divine power wants to dwell. Not around your pain, not after your pain, inside of it. This is the third gift, and it doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how you show up in the world. Because now, you're not operating from fear or ego, you're operating from divine overflow. You don't need to force things, you don't need to chase people, you don't need to prove anything. You've been filled with something eternal, and that changes everything. So if you're in that place right now, tired, broken, ashamed, fragile, know this, you are exactly where the miracle wants to begin. Stop fighting your weakness, start honoring it. Because God's power is not attracted to perfection, it's drawn to surrender. And once you embrace that, once you stop running from your own humanity, you will discover that the very thing you thought disqualified you was the thing that anointed you. The final realization, why you had to be broken first. There is a sacred truth that waits at the end of every dark night, whispered only to those who endured what others could not. It is not a truth taught in the light, it is only revealed in the ashes after the fire has passed. And that truth is this: you had to be broken first, because what you were before could not carry what you were born to become. And maybe that's the thing that hurts the most. Not the pain itself, but the mystery of it. The long silence, the unanswered prayers, the nights you screamed into nothing and wondered if anyone was listening. Maybe you've asked yourself, why me? More times than you can count. But now looking back, maybe the better question was always, why not me? Because the dark chosen ones are not picked at random. They are marked, not by the world, but by something older than time. And the mark does not come with comfort or ease. It comes with fire, with delay, with rejection, with a set of invisible weights that no one else seems to carry. You're not crazy, you're not cursed, you're called. And the reason you had to be broken first is because the version of you forged by the world was never strong enough to carry the weight of your soul's true assignment. You had to be emptied of everything false, the expectations, the ego, the attachments, the illusions. All of it had to go. Not because you were unworthy, but because you were too worthy to remain small. And in that breaking, something ancient was reawakened. A knowing, a remembering, a fire that cannot be extinguished by failure or fear. And you're starting to realize it now, aren't you? That none of it was random. That every delay protected you. Every heartbreak redirected you. Every betrayal refined you. You didn't lose yourself. You lost the version of you that was never meant to survive the deeper calling. And now, here you are, wiser, softer, stronger. Not just because you endured, but because you learned. You saw. That is what makes you rare. The world is filled with people who wear masks and run from their pain. But you sat with it. You let it teach you. You let it dismantle you. And in doing so, you received something that cannot be bought or taught: depth, presence, spiritual weight. And now, everything hits different. Conversations, silence, love, purpose. You no longer crave the shallow. You crave the sacred. You crave alignment. And that's how you know you've changed. Because the things that once entertained you now feel hollow. The people who once surrounded you now feel distant. And the dreams you once chased now seem too small. You're becoming what you were always meant to be. Not a perfect person, but a whole one. And that is the final realization. You had to be broken to be rebuilt correctly. Not in the image of the world, but in the image of your soul. That's the journey of the dark chosen ones. We aren't here to fit in. We're here to transcend. We're here to carry light into places others run from. We're here to show others what's possible when you don't give up, even when everything inside you screams to. So if you're still in your break, hold on. If you're still in the fire, breathe, because you're not alone. You're not behind. You're in the middle of your becoming. And I promise you, when the dust settles, you won't just recognize yourself, you'll remember yourself. And that's the real gift. Not just surviving the darkness, but discovering that you were the light all along. Keep going, you're not almost done, you're about to begin.